Welcome back, everybody, to your stimulus update for today. And on this episode, we have two potentially really good pieces of stimulus news, one coming from Nancy Pelosi and the other about the Postal Service, and only one piece of potentially bad stimulus news. But at the end of the video, I'm going to tell you why, even though you might see this story spread around, it's not as bad as people are going to try to make it out to be. Once again, welcome back to your stimulus update for Wednesday, August 19th. So let's get into the good news on the stimulus front. First, coming from Nancy Pelosi. We've been telling you on this channel for the last week or two that if anything is going to go forward, if we're going to get a new stimulus bill signed, it's going to have to come on the front of Nancy Pelosi and Chuck Schumer, saying to themselves, let's pass what we can now, the $1.5 trillion we agree with the GOP leadership on, and then let the American public decide in November who they would like to put into power, and those individuals will continue the stimulus programs going forward. It seems like Nancy Pelosi's mentality is shifting to what I have been telling you now for the last week or two. She said this to Politico yesterday. We have to try to come to that agreement now. And then she continued forward and said, we are willing to cut our bill in half to meet the needs right now. This is something we have not heard from her before. Yes, she said, we'll come down $1 trillion, they come up $1 trillion, even though she's technically not talking about spending less money in the bill, just the amount of time that the benefits are going to be given out. But we've never heard her say that we're going to cut our bill in half, which is a $3.4 trillion bill. Now, her spokesperson, Drew Hamill, did come out later to CNBC and clarified that she would start discussions again if Republicans doubled their roughly $1 trillion relief offer. So he's sort of trying to backtrack a little bit on that, cutting our bill in half. But I don't think it was a mistake on Nancy Pelosi's part. I do think genuinely she's realizing we need to come a little bit lower and just pass what we can agree on. And I think her spokesperson is just trying to cover for her a little bit as far as negotiations are concerned. And many news sites caught on to this and started reporting that Nancy Pelosi said Democrats are willing to pass a smaller bill now and then come back for a sixth round of relief after the new fiscal year begins October 1st. And so this is getting us very close. We're talking about Democrats coming in at about $1.8 trillion now if they cut their bill in half. Republicans are at about $1.5 trillion now. And then that brings us to our second piece of important stimulus news, which is really good, and that's about the Postal Service. This was from Steven Mnuchin. Hopefully, since Speaker Pelosi is coming back to look at Postal, hopefully she will be more interested in sitting down. Mnuchin added that the GOP agreed to increase its offer in several areas. So what we might see happen in the next week or two is that Nancy Pelosi and Steven Mnuchin and Mark Meadows and Chuck Schumer all sit down and she says, listen, we're willing to go a little bit lower. We want to pass something now. And then we'll let the American people decide in November and we'll continue forward after that. We're willing to come down to around $1.8 trillion. We need you to come up a little bit more. Steven Mnuchin will say, okay, that's good. You want more funding for the Postal Service. So this might be something that we can add in there. Maybe we'll increase a little bit of our state offering to $250 billion, and they'll come a little closer, maybe $1.6 to $1.8 trillion, and we might eventually see them come out with a deal. And Nancy Pelosi will come out to the public and say, listen, we needed to get something passed. This is not what we wanted. This is not everything we wanted to include in it, but we realized that it's so necessary to pass this bill that we are willing to compromise to this level and know that in the future we can bring this up again, especially after the election. I believe we will be hearing Nancy Pelosi say that. If she cannot say something like that, if she cannot bring herself to say something like that to the American public, which is not going to hurt her in the slightest. You're not going to have Democrats looking at her saying that going, oh, Nancy, you failed us. How could you pass this skinny bill, $1.5, $1.6 trillion? That's not the way any Democrats are going to look at it. They're going to go, good. We're going to get a stimulus check. Unemployment boost is going to continue. Hospitals are going to continue to get research. Schools are going to get money. States and local municipalities are going to get money. And then there's an election in November. There could possibly be a new group taking power, and they will continue stimulus programs going forward. Nobody is going to be looking at this in the negative unless they're completely on the fringe. So Nancy Pelosi, if she gets that mentality, and it looks like she is, combined with the need for more funding for the Postal Service, might bring both groups together to a very, very close place of agreement. So this is very good news. The only one piece of bad news that I opened up with is that the GOP did put a new stimulus bill forth. Now, it's only a very small group of Republicans, and this new stimulus bill did not include stimulus checks and only a $300 unemployment boost. Keep in mind, this is not like official or anything like that. So you might see this being reported around, oh no, it's bad news. The GOP is putting forth a much smaller bill. It's a very tiny group of Republicans. It does not official at all. And it doesn't include stimulus checks or an unemployment boost that is more than $300. It has no hope of going anywhere. So that news right there is just a mirage. It's just going to bring your attention to something it shouldn't be. The real news is that it looks like Nancy Pelosi is willing to negotiate much lower on her original offer because she realizes the American people need help. She doesn't want to keep stimulus negotiations going into the September-October area. And Steven Mnuchin looks like he's willing to make some agreements on the Postal Service and add additional money in. So this is all really good stuff. We will continue to keep you updated on this. So if you want to know, as we get closer, if more and more good news is coming down the pipe, consider subscribing to the channel. We would love to keep you informed. Also, we will be covering the President Donald Trump and Joe Biden debates, the political spectrum coming up in the United States of America. It's getting really interesting. I haven't really covered it much right now, Kamala Harris or Donald Trump or Pence or Joe Biden. And if you'd like to see my perspective on it, I will be diving into those things very soon. As always, I will catch you guys next time.